Well, I'm presuming that this film is a little bit of an offshoot off of Cat Daddies, but I'm wondering if we could maybe just start by talking about encountering the whole notion of international cat rescue, and how the two of you encountered each other, and the initial germinal ideas for this film.
Yeah, I was traveling around a few years ago with my film Cat Daddies, documentary about men who love cats. And, whenever I go to another city, a new city, I check out the cat cafe there. And so I met Katie there. And she also came to my screening there, too. And so, of course, we hit it off for cat ladies. But, later on, I learned about the cat rescue, the international rescue she was doing at the cafe. And what struck me was that I, had heard, all heard about international pet rescue from other countries, but it's usually a large organization, and they usually charter a plane, and there's a lot of fundraising, and it's usually getting them out of a disaster or conflict area.
Taylor Swift's private jet can take them.
Yeah, but I never heard of someone just going over there and picking up 25 cats and bringing them back on a commercial flight. So I was kind of interested in all the nuts and bolts of this, and how is this done, and also, why do they have a problem, and why can they not solve this problem? Qatar being such a wealthy country, I just thought there's got to be something here, and so we talked, and that's how this started.
One of my favorite books is Douglas Adams's Last Chance to See, which is about sort of environmentalists in various parts of the globe and kind of visiting endangered species. And one of the lines that always stuck with me is that usually there's one or maybe two people that stand between a certain species and extinction. And it's usually just these people who are, absolutely committed, have are basically sinking money into something, but it's because they love the animals. And that really came up for me with this, and that this film is about someone who has a single cat cafe going and meeting with, couples or, one or two people who, again, don't really have, the normal, what you would think of as a capitalistic kind of financial incentive to do anything. It's just, we love these animals. We don't like to see them suffer on the street. We're going to do something. And so these very street level individuals that the film covers, which I think is seemed very true to me, that it's basically love and passion that is the final bulwark between these cats and, dying on the street.
Yeah, that is totally true.
Let's talk about the sort of how you were able to, again, these people who have very few resources, the ability to link up to these, these sort of pockets of individuals who are in Qatar or in various other, countries around the world. What's the networking like?
Yeah, so Sip and Purr works with the local shelter where we get the majority of our cats from.
Sip and Purr is the cat cafe.
Yes, the cat cafe in Milwaukee. We get the majority of our cats from a local shelter, but someone had reached out to us asking if we would help a couple cats from Qatar, and so we said sure. And they flew them over, they got adopted, and would you help some more? And I said, well, I'm...
Okay.
Yeah, basically. I'm also a flight attendant, so I do like to help, but I wanted to see what and where I was helping. So I flew over to Qatar and saw the situation for myself and how there were no options for these cats. There's no adoption. It's very hard to fundraise. And I knew that I couldn't turn my back on what I saw. And I had an avenue to get cats adopted. So one thing led to another. And a lot of the relationships I've made with the international rescuers were all social media. So that's how it all kind of started, and that's how it's still going.
How many other sort of international trips had you made before this particular trip to Qatar that we see in the film?
Yeah, I made quite a few. I do a lot of rescue work in Lebanon. I've rescued Egypt, Lebanon, Turkey, Kuwait. I think we've taken now probably cats from 11 or 12 international countries. And almost all of them I visited myself and have seen the situation and saw that there is no hope for those animals, and that's why I help.
Is the situation similar in that they're just not people adopting cats in those countries? Is it like Qatar in that way.
That is true. The adoption rate is almost zero. But it also is they don't get a lot of community support. They don't have government support. It's hard for them to fundraise. And like Qatar, for example, it's not a place conducive to cats. It's the desert.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when we were there, it's 115 degrees. Mm-hmm. There are no natural water sources like ponds and lakes like we have in Wisconsin.
I don't think I've ever seen cats panting quite as much
I know.
Than I have in this film, just because you can tell the heat.
We saw it all the time when we were there. Yeah.
Yeah, when people say, ask us why Qatar, like, you have to understand it's a different situation than cats on the street here. Mm-hmm. They don't have anything to hunt. I mean, it's desert. There's not many trees. There's not many birds. They've already eradicated the mice. They were imported in to eradicate the mice, and they did that.
They did their job too well.
They did their job, and now they've become the rats.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants them. They're sick. They're just multiplying, and it's not a place that a cat can survive. They're not supposed to be there. So, and I hope people see the movie and think about how, it's not just about the cats too. I mean, we are exploiting animals to the point where we are changing and risking the ecosystems.
Mm-hmm. One of the things that is brought up a number of times in the film is that, there will be people there who get a pet, and when they move, they just dump their pet behind. And that, to me, is so unimaginable to do. I mean, thinking of, my cat, I think...
You're not doing it right. Like, if that's
your relationship
able,
with this animal, that's not... Why do you have the animal in the first place? It just seems unfathomable to me that the psychology of just dumping a cat somewhere, and yet the fact that it happens so much is, one of the things that the film does talk about is, going in to educate kids about responsible pet ownership, which you would think would be a natural, empathetic relationship, but I guess that's not necessarily the case.
Qatar is kind of a special case because most of the population is of migrant temporary workers. That's the major part of the problem, is because if, 80-something% of the population is not going to live there permanently, they're coming and going, what do? They have to leave these pets behind. And so it's a constant cycle of that. And I don't blame those people necessarily. It's just the way things are, and expats have a lot less rights, I think, than the locals do there. So a lot of them can't speak out or complain or criticize. It's just a different situation, animal rescue there. It's a different situation than here.
I imagine the logistics of them trying to bring a pet back to, like, if they go back to the country that they immigrated from.
Yeah, the way it was explained to me when I was there was kind of like, a lot of countries require, the
rabies titer test.
That and quarantine, long quarantine. Mm-hmm. So it would be kind of like equivalent to you live in a small village somewhere, you fly into LA or something, and they have to be quarantined there, but you really live in New York or really far away. It's just impossible to deal with that. But for some reason, the United States is a little more lenient, and we think it's because the diseases here already exist, so we don't have that kind of quarantine.
Well, also, where the film goes into some details of the logistics of, here's the sort of the clean bill of health, here's the passport for the cat, here's the vaccinations, here's the fact that the cat has been spayed or neutered here, and so all of those, it's not a free pass. It's actually, there's a fair amount of work that goes into being able to bring the cats back on the plane. Right.
And I think, too, for some of the workers, even if they are rescuing a cat off the street in Doha, that process to get the cat back to their country, it's expensive. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so they just don't have the resources to take the cat with them, even if they wanted to. Well,
there's a little bit of a resonance there with the fact that one of the first places that you go in the film is that people are going to try to upsell me on the number of cats that they want me to be able to bring back. It's like, and I'm girding myself for this, and then immediately afterwards, like, are you sure you don't want to bring 4 cats or 5 cats? It's like, I only have room for 25. If I could bring 300 cats, I would, but the infrastructure isn't there. So, so in a certain sense, Yes, I would love to be able to bring all these cats with me, but reality kind of puts its foot down at a certain point.
Right. You only have so many resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, to help.
And it really must be the best fit. The personality must be right. The health of the cat must be right. It's a long journey.
There's I just went into there's a cat cafe in the Mission that I'd walked past a number of times, and I finally went in for the first time maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. It's called Kit Tea.
I heard about it, yeah.
And so I went there sort of right towards closing, so I was basically there pretty much by myself. And I walk in, and I think within 5 seconds there was a cat on my shoulders.
Aww.
So it's that kind of thing, like, these are the cats which will immediately go up to you and say, yep, I have no fear of people at all. I'm coming right there. So,
Right.
So I can certainly see the importance of adopt me. Look at me. I'm a personable cat.
The goal is adoption.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. So when I'm picking cats, like we mentioned in the movie, that the goal is adoption. And the more cats that we get adopted, the more we can help.
Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Although there is a person who works at the station who fosters a lot of cats, and it is always that when you have to give the cats back, there is always that kind of.
I do a lot of fostering myself, and so I understand that that sentiment. But the really, really rewarding part is seeing them go to their forever home, and then there's always more that need help, and so that's kind of the payoff. But I understand the sadness of letting them go.
Well, I mean, the scene of the airport is kind of that scene where you have basically all the people in the film having to basically say goodbye to all these cats, which was really kind of a heartbreaking moment in the film.
Yeah, they know they'll never see him again.
Mm-hmm. But again, that's what you're wanting to do, even if it is sort of, a tearful moment.
Yeah. Yeah, and they all went on to get adopted and are living their best lives in Milwaukee. So that is the payoff. The goal is goodbye at the end of the day. and to see them just thriving, I think, is the payoff.
How many foster failures have you had in a sense of like, I'm not giving this one up?
I have 6 cats, and all of them, except for one, were foster forevers. Yep, and the majority of mine all came from Egypt. I have 2 blind cats. One came from Beirut. One came from Egypt. I do have a Qatar cat myself. So they all were ones that... for one reason or another, I decided to adopt them.
A friend of mine had just gotten a blind cat, and this is the first time I grew up actually when I was a kid with a one-eyed cat, a one-eyed black cat. But a cat with no eyes was new to me, and the kind of the uncanny way that they can navigate a space is just absolutely incredible. Just the stories I was hearing about it were really, really fascinating.
It's unbelievable. Our blind cat, I'm telling you, they know how to get on the countertops. They know how to crawl up in the rafters in the basement. We don't even think of them as blind. Mm-hmm. They figure it out. It's unbelievable.
It's incredible, was filming with them because, they knew where the camera was. And I think if they were in this room right now, they would know. They would be playing with the microphone.
Bap, bap,
they would totally know where it is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although speaking of the cats that you own, all of the cats have very distinct personalities in the film. But is it Wilbur, the
loud one?
Yeah, is the one that I think was one of my standout favorites of the entire film.
I love that. And Wilbur actually, I was fostering him through our partner shelter. I had him, I think, since he was an incubator baby, and he always was loud. He started out loud, and from what we've been told, we saw his adopter not that long ago. Wilbur is still loud. He's a character.
What was, as a subject, obviously when you're on the other side of the camera, you have no idea what the actual final film is going to be. What is your experience of sort of seeing the film or seeing a cut of the film for the first time and kind of seeing the story all pieced together?
Oh, I'm sure Mike can attest. I still cry every time I see it. It's still so emotional to me. Every time I see it, maybe recognize something that I didn't see the last time. And it's just, I'm so proud of all the cats that went on to, I'm still in contact with a lot of the adopters. And I'm just so proud that they all found awesome homes and are living their best lives. And I hope, I can help more cats like that. It gives me hope, a lot of hope.
We are sadly running out of time. We should mention the specifics once again, that 25 Cats for Guitar is going to be screening at the Elmwood on Wednesday, and also in Larkspur on
Tomorrow.
Monday.
Larkspur's
on Sunday.
tomorrow.
Larkspur on Sunday.
Yeah.
And you
And Tuesday in Sonoma County and Sebastopol. Yeah, and I'm driving to all these places, and I'm selling merch for the film to raise money for the kiddies in Qatar, and just getting kind of building, our fan base, our audience. It's really going to take word of mouth, I think, to get it out there, because documentaries are challenging sell these days.
Yeah.
But I do think that this is worthy of seeing on the big screen. I think it's eye opening, not just for the cats, but just going to a place you probably never thought to go, and it surprised me.
The cinematography is gorgeous in the film. It's really stunning. Yeah.
Thank you.
I will say that the moment that we saw the notice of the film, I think Sonia emailed me and said, "There's another Cat Daddies." Or he's like, we have to have her back in. This is great. So, and Cat Daddies was a film that all of us really, really very much enjoyed.
Thank you.
So
I think it's kind of soulfully a sequel, because Umair is a great cat dad in the movie. Yeah.
For people who are interested, is there a website for the film as well?
Yeah, it's very easy. 25 Cats from Qatar. We also have social media, so follow us on our journey and find out where else it's playing. We're heading to the East Coast next.
Mai Huang and Katie McEwen, thank you both so much for coming to talk with us today.